sharing some information with you here today. Just to share my name and my story. My name is Joe Madigan. I am the Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Florida Southern College. A little bit about myself. This is my 13th year in undergraduate admissions, recruitment, and enrollment management. This is my 6th year specifically at Florida Southern College. One of the things I'm going to be sharing with you today is just a championship-winning approach to text messaging, and I titled my presentation today, Circling the Wagons. I am born and raised here in Buffalo, New York. I am an avid Buffalo Bills fan. Absolutely. We just made the playoffs for the first time since 1999, so it's been an exciting year. And really, when I thought about sharing information about creating your texting plan, how to motivate your teams, that was the first thing that I thought of, is that no one circles the wagons quite like the Buffalo Bills, and wanted to talk about how to circle the wagons within your own offices. And really, that starts with your playbook that you're looking at, and I consider this finding the right cadence to use. Mongoose changed their text messaging platform name to Cadence this year, and my wife is a speech-language pathologist. She's a beautiful woman, and one of the things that she constantly does is talk about communication. And cadence is actually the inflection of the voice that you use. And text messaging gives us that additional inflection beyond what we've done previously with phone calls and emails. And if you're really looking for what a cadence is, no better example of that was when Jim Kelly was running the no-huddle offense in the early 1990s, or when Peyton Manning would actually catch defenses offside by changing his inflection at the line of scrimmage. Text messaging allows us to do that now. We have to change our priorities, and we also have to know how to do that within our own offices here. And that's what I'm hoping to accomplish today, is really share some strategies with you on how to earn buy-in from your enrollment management teams here. I also encourage you to take a look at some of the different various strategies that you can use, both in implementing as well as re-implementing, pivoting, and some of the strategies to do that within your own offices for cadence. And then last but not least, talking about the methodology for metrics. These are the reporting features here, such as reporting structures that you're using. Maybe it's weekly, monthly, assigning projects to team members in here. And I like to make this session interactive as much as possible. Encourage you to hold your questions to the end of the presentation, but just to get started here quickly, how many of you have been on Cadence for more than 3 years? 3 or more years, raise your hands. How many of you have been on Cadence for 2 or more years? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you have been on Mongoose Cadence for a year or more at this point in time? Absolutely. How many of you have been on Cadence a year or less? Raise your hands. Okay, so we got a great mix in here, and I'm hoping that a lot of the information within this presentation today is going to cover this. And when I talk about assigning projects to team members, automation is really having those text message communications and the overall plan of that texting, maybe those group texts going out or the bulk texting coming out from an administrator. Innovation would be coming from your individual team members. How many of you allow your individual team members and counselors to send out their own messages? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you have a singular administrator that sends out all of your communication, then allows your counselors or recruiters to actually manage those messages? Raise your hands. Okay, a mix. How many of you do both in your offices? Okay, there's a good mix on that as well. And what I'm going to talk about today, as I finish up the presentation a little bit later on, is some successes of what we've seen, some struggles, certainly some lessons learned, and some opportunities associated within that, especially when it comes to management, and then also the new product features that Mongoose continuously comes out with within their Cadence text messaging platform, as we saw some of those that are coming up in the future here today. Just to share a little bit about Florida Southern College, we are a comprehensive private liberal arts school located in Lakeland, Florida. One of our biggest claims to fame is we are a Frank Lloyd Wright designed campus, hence being here right here in Buffalo, New York. If you're not familiar with Frank Lloyd Wright, often hailed as the modern father of American architecture, we have the most uniquely designed Frank Lloyd Wright structures in any singular location in the world, as we have 13 of his structure designs on our campus. We also are 30 minutes to the gates of Walt Disney World and 45 minutes to St. Pete and Clearwater beaches, which are actually just ranked as the top 2 beaches in America. So we are in a great location. I'm sure you look at that photo here and you're like, wow, I'd like to be there right now. Those are actually our residence halls on campus. And we've grown significantly at Florida Southern. Being a comprehensive private liberal arts school, we're just over 2,500 undergraduate students, about 3,000 total students. Our student-to-faculty ratio is small. We're one of those small private schools that prides ourselves on personalized attention. And I also love to mention we're very diverse. About 60% of our students come from in-state, 40% from out-of-state. And we're selective. We continue to grow in the number of applications we receive each year. So that also plays into how we're communicating with students as we're continuing to have a wider reach of students looking at Florida Southern. And that's really why we started looking at Cadence as a product. We originally looked at Cadence and began our process in working with Cadence back in August of 2015, signed officially in September of 2015, and we initially looked at it for our graduate programs at Florida Southern College as a way to get more communication out. However, as you've heard today from our representatives from Inside Higher Education and some of the panels, there's a lot of challenges and, more importantly, a lot of competition in the higher education marketplace. So how do you differentiate yourself? And a lot of times that starts in the communication and personalizing that communication. So that's why we opted to actually sign on with Cadence. Throughout our time with Cadence, we've had to really develop our own processes and philosophy for best practices. We've been on Cadence now for 3 years, and we allow our team members really to drive that process. We have 13 territory managers at Florida Southern College in our undergraduate admissions office. We have 6 graduate recruiters as well, and then we have several accounts that we use across campus. We work collaboratively within the Cadence system. To show the effect, and giving you a little bit of data and information of how Cadence has affected our enrollment and what we believe it's been able to do, we've seen an increase not only in our overall student enrollment at Florida Southern College, we've seen a tremendous increase in interest in Florida Southern. We have an average text per student opt-in of about 6.9%, and that's continued to increase. Our enrollment yield continued to increase up until last year. This year it went down a little bit. That's an anomaly. We actually received an additional 1,200 applications, more than normal this year, and over 700 new admits coming into Florida Southern College. So that dropped our enrollment yield a little bit, still very high. And most importantly, when you look at what's coming into the university, our total confirmed students, the students that will actually show up on the Florida Southern College campus and stay through that census period that will happen, we've continued to grow. We've actually increased 16% in our transfer student population this year, another 7% in our first-year freshman student population. And as a small private liberal arts school, this is not the norm. We know this, and we've been using Cadence to our advantage to really bolster who Florida Southern College is and build relationships with the students who are interested. We started this within our first year, and some of our best practices that we started right off the bat with the help of Mongoose and the team at Mongoose was really asking questions to our students to yield more responses that continued the conversations, got students more interested, and we strategically increased our usage from year 1 to year 3 as well. We sent out more text messages throughout the year as part of our communication plan, not only just to help students complete their applications, but also starting off that initial conversation by introducing ourselves as admissions counselors and recruiters all the way through until the student would actually enroll. Our territory managers take on multiple roles at Florida Southern College. They not only go out on the road and recruit our students, they actually have the initial financial aid conversations, reviewing financial aid award letters with them, are knowledgeable at how credits transfer to Florida Southern College, really driving students through the entire enrollment funnel, giving them the tool of Cadence and allowing them to strategically throughout the year continue to ask new questions to them through the Cadence product actually increased our overall usage. We created a culture of texting. This started on day 1. How many of you had the opportunity to actually train your team members in your offices? Raise your hands on using Cadence. Many of you have had the opportunity to go out and train team members. We start the training process on day 1 when a new counselor arrives on our campus. As part of our admissions counselor and recruiter manual, they will have an in-depth training of how to use Cadence. And also we provide our admissions team members with the why. Why are we actually communicating with these students via text message? What are the benefits of this, allowing to have a certain part in this process? We also identify our super users. These are our individual counselors that after their first year, we notice that they're coming up with the most creative text messages. It could be they have the highest reply rates. Maybe they're sending out messages we've never sent before and reaching a new population of students. We're constantly looking to grow new leaders within our office, and we look at this through the metrics within our cadence system. Creating a culture of text messaging is across all levels as well, whether it be the first-year counselor or the veteran counselor that's been in our office for a long period of time. Having them understand the value of reaching students in a new way. Maybe you can't reach them via a phone call. Maybe you can't reach them via an email because they won't open that. Cadence allows the student to know that you're interested in them as a college or university. We've collaborated across departments as well, and most notably in our campus visit programs. We've had a significant increase in confirmations, especially for our big events on campus, such as our Day on Campus open house programs. We have admitted student days at Florida Southern College. We've seen a significant increase in show rates this summer alone because we're sending out confirmations on a regular time basis. And then we also rewarded top texting performance. This is something that we learned after our first year. We did monthly awards during our yield season for our top texters for number of text messages sent, as well as the yield on what the students were coming in with. In addition to that, what the specific reply rate was for that. We did that in February, March, and April, especially during that financial aid season. And at the end of the year, we actually gave a certificate and a Mongoose mug, thanks to the Mongoose team for sending that out to Florida Southern College. We asked for that specifically so we could recognize the leader of the pack. A mongoose is an animal. They kind of run in a pack together, if you didn't know that. We'll have to rename that now that they're cadence. I'm not sure what we'll actually call that as an end-of-the-year award. Some things that we also realized as we were going through this process of learning our best practices, we knew that there were some certain actionable items that we needed to continue to improve upon. And number one was maximizing our audience capture. And the number one group that has stated that they are very interested in communicating with us in the format of text messaging is parents. We've heard a lot of this where they're doing one-off messaging with us now. 55% of parents state in a recent poll that they would love to text message with an admissions counselor or recruiter. 70% said they would love to text message with a financial aid counselor. That oftentimes is where they're starting into that process and learning about what is there for their students and need those questions answered for them. We also are allowing students and parents now to opt out of messaging rather than having them opt in because of the volume we're seeing. If a family is not interested in text messaging, they're going to let you know that information. Is a strategy on the back end as opposed to moving that to the front end now. We're seeing that families want that communication, whether it be via email. They've been used to mail format and those actual mailing pieces, the physical pieces. They want that communication via text. Most families are appreciative of that information. Preparing to respond within your own offices is also something that you realistically need to start thinking about right away. Do you have the capacity, meaning the amount of staff, to manage the amount of messages that are coming into you? A great example of this is coming up in about 3 to 4 weeks. You're going to start sending out admissions counselors from your offices and campuses to travel around the country, maybe in your local area. Wherever you have those primary and secondary markets, they're going to be going out visiting high schools, going to college fairs. You're going to be reduced in the number of staff members you have in your offices. How are you still going to manage that text message communication that's going out at that point in time? Understanding that you have the staff available and the manpower available to actually handle those messages. And then last but not least, a very important actionable item that you can take back to your campuses right away and something to take away, always give your students that you're messaging with a call to action. What do they need to complete? Give them something to do. My background prior to being in higher education was being a teacher in the classroom. I taught high school 11th and 12th graders. They always needed to know what they needed to accomplish. And let's be honest, our students and families are deadline driven. Give them that information and when they need to complete it by. Those are some actionable items that you can take back with you and some things that we learned. As far as transactional communications, this is really where we first started seeing our biggest successes at Florida Southern College, and maybe where you're seeing some of that as well. This could be in sending out deposit deadline dates, financial aid reminders, scholarship encouragements, encouragements to come and visit you on campus or in local area opportunities that you're hosting there, giving them action prompts. What needs to be completed for their application? What do they still need to send in? telling them to check an email. We've used this very effectively now as a transactional piece, saying, we sent you an email giving you this information. Have you looked at it as of yet? And that's that partnership between email and text messaging, and I'm going to talk more about that as we go through the presentation. But really, as a rule of thumb, especially for transactional items, is this something that students are really going to be grateful you sent them? Is this something that they really want, they really need? Is it something you feel is important, and it's something they feel will be important to help them? And the way to kind of realize what's going to work for the student, how they actually feel this is going to be important to them, create a goodwill budget. And I always like to give this as an example. EAB actually created this in their text messaging report. Think about it this way. If you send out one text message a week, which should be about the maximum what you send to a student as far as outbound communication, over an 18-week yield season, that's 18 text messages you're allowed to send. If you think about that within your communication types that I just listed on the previous slide, you're probably going to accomplish a lot of your goals. And students are probably going to reply to that. This sounds like kind of like the even keel. What is the norm as far as text message communication to help pull them through that admissions funnel? I can talk a lot about best practices. I can talk a lot about what our team members are doing. One of the things I really wanted to talk about today is how to lead, motivate, and encourage and empower your teams. And that starts with buy-in. Buy-in means that you're actually working with your teams. At Florida Southern College, I mentioned we have 13 territory managers. We also have what we also call, specifically at Florida Southern College, an admissions senior team. We're actually renaming this team this year to our enrollment intelligence team at Florida Southern College. What this means is we're coaches to our other team members, giving them the information that they need to be successful. And we work together as a group within our office. We start this each and every week in our staff meetings. We've made cadence a focus. We actually have this in our staff meetings. We send out an individualized text message, specifically based on the feedback of the team members. What's worked for them? What should everyone else be using that's been successful for those team members? And then applying it as a whole team. We built our template library at Florida Southern College based on what's worked for our counseling team instead of just telling them what to send. Because the best ideas often come from your team members up, the individuals that are in the trenches on the pulse of what students and families are looking for. And creating buy-in and empowering and motivating your team starts with allowing them to be the super users. Let them be creative. Let them make mistakes. Has anybody heard specifically of fear of messing up, or FOMO? That's a new trend going on specifically with your Gen Z and millennials that are out there. Allow your team members to make mistakes within your offices. Send some messages. Work with Excel. This may be the first time they've had the opportunity to experiment within that. Help coach them in your offices there. Allow them to create those segments and templates together and create that strategy for what's going to work for their individual team members. When we look at legacy channels, which we would consider kind of that old style, we send out email communication, we send the paper mailing communication, comparative to higher engagement. We create a SEM plan, which is a strategic engagement plan at Florida Southern College. It is addition part of our strategic enrollment management plan. We're finding that 98% of text messages are being opened compared to about 20%. It's pretty high compared to national average on email, even in that. And then our response rate is about 45% for those text messages that are being sent out compared to about 6% for email. One thing we're also looking at now, when we've been using this as a strategy to actually send a text message out to students and potentially parents now, and saying that we just sent you an email. Please make sure you take a look at that. What do you think is happening? Those open rates are going up very, very quickly. I love the ones that we're sending out to students saying, tell your parent we just sent them an email communication. Make sure that they're able to open that up. Those open rates are even higher at this point in time as well as a strategy. Some other data that we're finding at Florida Southern College, and just a little bit about some of our prompts and helpful reminders we're sending out, whether it be about documents or deadlines. 86% of students surveyed said that text prompts actually encourage them to complete unfinished tasks. Maybe that's sending in a high school transcript, test scores, a letter recommendation that they're missing. 85% of students surveyed said text informed them about something they didn't know they needed to do. We may have sent them an email saying they needed to do it, but it wasn't until we sent that text message reminder that encouraged them to do so and they knew that they had to. And then 84% of our surveyed students said text reminders were useful in helping them get everything they needed done. At the end of the day, we are here to support our students that we're working with. This is a way to actually get that support out to them in effective formatting. We use Slate at Florida Southern College as our CRM system. We've been on Slate now for 3 years, actually going into our 3rd year on Slate. We've loved being able to use that because what we're able to do is pull specific queries out of the Slate system, create segments in an Excel format when we first started the first couple of years, and actually put those segments into Mongoose Cadence. We're able to send out bulk text messages to our students. As I asked previously in the presentation, I asked how many of you are allowing your team members to do this on their own? How many of you are doing this administratively? How many of you are allowing to do both? We've done both. We've allowed team members to go ahead and send bulk text messages on their own. We've had administrative campaigns that we've sent out as well as bulk text messages that then staff members would manage. We do this throughout the year. And we continue to motivate and manage our usage. When we're sending out these queries and we're sending them out to our team members to manage text messages in a bulk format, we want to make sure that things are being accomplished. And as you're working with your teams on your own campuses, just to give you some ideas of what we're doing to shepherd our team towards success at Florida Southern College and some best practices for cadence usage, you have to understand that cadence usage happens at different levels. Different individuals in your offices are going to have different levels of text message knowledge and communication. Not everything is equal. And it's not equal based on the numbers of what you're seeing as well. Maybe one counselor has a larger territory and students that are more responsive. Maybe you have a counselor that's working specifically with just international students. That can certainly pose a specific opportunity or a threat that's there for that counselor because they're not able to text message as many students potentially. You have to motivate and validate your teams. Allow them to know that not everything is equal, and it doesn't have to be. Give them the tools to be successful, build them up, and show them the data. We do this through key performance indicators. This is not a new trend. If you read any John Maxwell leadership books, he's a firm believer in key performance indicators that's there. We send out weekly reports to our team members letting them know how they actually are doing in text messaging, how many messages they've sent, how many of those messages were read, what was the response rate for that. We also do a daily and weekly cadence report that's in our Slate system, so our counselors can actually stay up to date each and every day they wanted to do so. They could look in, see how many messages in total they've actually replied to as well as sent on their own, and then the total messages that they've actually sent in general. They can look at reply rates as well now. This past year was our first year that we actually added our cadence-specific KPIs into counselor performance appraisals, those annual evaluations, to see how a counselor was doing as a territory manager, as well as how they were doing in effective communication within their territories as a specific admissions recruiter and counselor. Give you some ideas of what these reports look like. I mentioned that a counselor can pull within our Slate system a text message report, which is actually here on the top left-hand corner. We have message activity reports that our counselors have full access to see and we send out on a daily basis, or we were sending on a daily basis as well, so counselors could see what they were doing. And then at the end of the year, we have an overall KPI report, because we're looking at not just text messages. We'll look at the number of emails sent out. We'll look at the number of calls completed, because it's not a one magic pill option we know within text messaging. It has to be a combined effort of all of our outreach that we're doing. So our methodology at Florida Southern College in using some of these metrics is giving this data for coaching. It's not to say you're not doing and not completing this. It's a coaching opportunity. Maybe a counselor is having a struggle in a specific county or a specific state that's a little bit down in the number of students that are applying or that have been admitted or completing their applications. This is an opportunity for us to maybe enhance our communication via text message. Maybe you have a counselor who's struggling having students respond to text messages. Maybe that's an opportunity to reword that text specific with some wording that they're familiar with within their own territories. We use a lot of templates as well. We have a database of templates that our counselors can go in and use that have been effective, and we actually created a cycle topic library as well. We broke up our different templates into specific topic areas, such as we have templates for missing credentials. We have topics for accepted student weekends on campus and coming out to visit. That might be, we have the opportunity to get students flight reimbursements to come on campus from coming outside the state of Florida. Maybe it's visit communication in general, trying to drive sophomores and juniors to visit us because they've sent us their test scores. As many schools are doing, maybe you're purchasing names that are coming from ACT or they're coming from SAT, and you're trying to drive those students to come to your campus. We're actually sending this communication out to inquiries within our text messaging system. Don't have a fear of doing so. Try something new. We've added more users as well. We're now up to almost 30 users, and as far as accounts within our system. We're collaborating with our director of housing. We're collaborating with our student success offices, allowing them to have the access and training them, giving the tools to do so. We established campaigns. This was a new feature this past year that was developed within the Cadence system. We love campaigns because it allows us to track a specific message going out to a specific grouping of students. We started implementing that in October. We also coach our teams throughout the year. Most colleges and universities have enrollment goals that are set, maybe by your board of trustees. Maybe that's an individual regional goal that you might have. We have that as well. But we establish goals for text messaging throughout the year as well. We have a set number of text messages that a counselor should send out individually. We have a set number of text messages that we'll send out as a team that are goals that are set. We have an expectation and a reach goal as well. Maybe during a week, we encourage a student to send out 50 text messages at a goal, but a reach might be 75 to 100, allowing them to take the initiative if they want to. That allows us as individual supervisors as well as coaches and leaders to see who are your super users, who wants that opportunity to step up, and who else can we develop in that role. For segments and campaigns, we've been monitoring our campaigns to see what's been successful so that we can continue to use those and redevelop them throughout the year. We notify our team members as new features come available. You may be seeing this as well. You're getting those emails and communications that are coming from Mongoose and the Cadence team about updates that are happening. As part of our staff training, we have several of our team members, and anytime a new feature is developed, we allow them the opportunity to learn more about that and share that in a staff meeting, giving them buy-in and empowering them to be the super users and also be those individual experts within our office. And this also speaks to maintaining a fruitful relationship with Mongoose. And I want to speak to this for just a moment here. Around this morning, they were talking about features and some of the roadmap that was coming out. And Andrew had mentioned a little bit about text messaging parents and what their schools have been doing. I actually took my computer, got out of my chair, and bolted over to him. And I said, show me how you did this. How can I do this? We have a great CRM system. We have great individuals in our IT offices. Everyone gets busy. We understand that. Mongoose has been exceptional in their customer service. We have a CRM system that has text messaging within it. We've looked at it. We've had opportunities. We could certainly use that, but we're still with Mongoose because of the client conversations that we have with them and because of the support that they've given us. If there are ideas that our team comes up with, they've been open to hear that as well. So one of the things that I always say, ask the questions and ask them for support that's there. That's one of the benefits for us continuing to work with Mongoose. Giving you an idea of campaigns, and as being a new feature, I mentioned that our team members have had the opportunity to send out their own individual text messages and their own individual campaigns. We've also been sending out administrative campaigns, meaning that we had an individual that sent out a text message in bulk to a group of students as part of a campaign to accomplish a task, and then we monitored the reports on this. And some of the things that we found is that it was more effective administratively than it was individually when it came to campaigns. Not always for individual bulk text messaging, but for campaigns, we noticed some differentiation that was happening in here. We did a total of 130 campaigns this year, and our overall reply percentage was about 36%. When we look just at what we did administratively, when it was a crafted message that was carefully constructed, worked within a team, agreed upon, sent out to a specific group of students, and had our team manage that, our response rate actually increased to about 47%. A couple of the reasons that we noticed this could be within the wording of that. It could be in the management of the text message and how long it's getting back to that. But again, a coaching opportunity that's there for our team members. So how do you manage these metrics when you see numbers like this within your own offices? And what is the effect of what you're doing in this text message communication? I can speak specifically for Florida Southern, some of the successes that we've had. We've had an 80% application completion rate. That's a school record. I don't know if anybody else can tout that they've had 80% of their applications that were submitted to their college. The student went all the way through and submitted all the documents for that application as well. We had 100% of our enrolling students starting this fall as undergraduate first-year students that responded via text message at least 6 times throughout the enrollment cycle from July 1 until May 1st. And 82% was our confirmation rate for visits. I mentioned how high that was. We sent out over 100,000 text messages in enrollment management team this past year. We really take a lot of time, effort, and attention in sending out text message communication. We only have 19 total team members that participate in this, so really we have the opportunity to communicate, and this has been one of the most effective ways to do so. And this was double what we sent last year. And there's some lessons learned for even our successes that have come up here, and certainly some challenges that have come out of this. I just mentioned we have 19 staff members and over 100,000 text messages sent. We do also require our team members to do calling as well as email communication. They're the territory managers, and this has significantly affected work-life balance. I took a tally over the last 2 days of how many times the 2 words work balance or more work was stated in any of the presentations and conversations that we've had. I counted 37 times that this was mentioned, and sometimes additional responsibility and having text messages is just another thing for team members. Having the buy-in and knowing that team members can use this as a tool to effectively communicate with their students and get reach to them is really going to give them the opportunity to effectively meet their class at any college or university. However, we certainly had some difficulty retaining staff with these additional work responsibilities. We had 13 first-year counselors at Florida Southern College. We will have 7 new staff members that will start coming up here in just a couple weeks' time. We're actually now looking at a retention plan for our staff members because of the additional work responsibilities and how to manage that workload within our office, because students are messaging after hours. Parents are messaging after hours as well once they get that contact information for our team members. They're available between the hours of 3 and 5, and they're most likely to text message in the evening because that's when they have the availability to do so. And we're putting the pressure sometimes on team members to communicate, but we also want to be effectively knowledgeable of what's there and be very also empathetic of the time that they have. I talked about independent and administrative text messaging and reports, effectively looking at that, seeing what we can do better within campaigns, building up our team, and also, again, making weekly focus messages for our team members. Instead of saying, this is the message that we're looking to craft, why don't you go ahead and try something, crafting that message for the team members, allowing them to manage that within campaigns. Some certain lessons that we've learned, especially in leadership and coaching throughout the year this year, there definitely is a breaking point of too much text messaging. Students want to hear from you, but you can't just constantly send them things 3 and 4 times a week just to accomplish something. If you over-text a student, they're going to stop replying and stop looking at the information, and they may miss something important. Texting is not a magic pill. It's not a singular way to improve enrollment on your college campuses either. You have to have a dynamic marketing and communications plan. You have to have a well-trained team. You have to have terrific leadership that's there that sets you up for success, not just sending more text messages. You need to send it out to the right students that are looking at your school and identifying them. Staff appreciation is something that we really are looking at. What can we do better within as a retention plan? I already mentioned that we identify our super users, we reward those super users, but we want to do that more often throughout the year and recognizing those little micro goals throughout the year as well. For our KPI reporting, we stopped making our reports public, meaning sending them out every single day to a counselor, and made that more a part of an individual coaching conversation with a team leader each week now. so they can feel more like they're being coached and mentored, as mentorship has become a word of vocabulary within our offices that we want everyone to use. We realize as well that we really have a need for artificial intelligence and automation. We would love to see the opportunity for some of our messages that have the same reply that will go to them, having some automation to that, or potentially artificial intelligence. This is a controversial topic. However, about 70% of our text messages we received over the summer could actually have been responded to by a bot, potentially, such as, when am I going to get my housing assignment? When do I get my class schedule? Where can I find my portal information? Some of those student support services pieces, maybe that just respond quickly to a student, giving them what they need that could have been done through artificial intelligence. And buy-in starts from the top down, not the bottom up. You have to have dynamic leadership that's looking to lead the team to success, wants to coach and train up the individuals that are there, especially when you look at internal communication within an office as well. That's going to lead to success if you're having those conversations. If there's a lack of communication from the top to the bottom, and in the middles especially, that's going to lead to division and failure because not everyone's going to be on the same page. Creating that norm within your offices and that culture of text messaging is your starting point. So we're going back to the drawing board. Certainly we've had some successes. We've had great enrollment numbers at Florida Southern College, but how do we move forward? So I wanted to give you a peek of what we're doing over the next 6 to 10 months at Florida Southern College. First and foremost, we're automating campaigns. We're going to be creating a full admissions template library that would actually directly connect into campaigns. We're going to actually have a template for each and every week of the enrollment cycle, and that will be part of a focus sheet. We send out a focus sheet to our admissions team members, letting them know what are the goals each and every week, and we talk about the why of we're doing that, why we're doing those within our staff meetings each and every week. We're also leveraging super users. I think this is so critical as a buzzword out there now. You have team members that have specific sets of skills. Maybe you have a Liam Neeson from Take It that's on your staff that's there that has that specific set of skills that they can use that's going to make this successful for a text messaging campaign. Leverage those individuals and what they're good at. Find that out. What do they like to do for text messaging and get them incorporated in that process here. We're also collaborating with our marketing and communications team throughout the year. We're actually going to see what they're sending out in their communication plan and using text messaging to emphasize all the emails that go out so students and families are actually reading that information. It's a great example up here. It says, "Hi, this is Joe from FSC. So excited you submitted your enrollment deposit, confirmed your spot in the class. Just sent you an email with your housing, or your next steps to sign up for housing. Did you receive the email?" It asked a question to the student. It also gave them a direct prompt. They knew what they needed to do, and it's in a short format. Our third piece that we're really continuing to work on is the integration of Slate and Cadence. If you are on a CRM system, I know Dave had mentioned this as well as part of the integration pieces that are there. There are some great opportunities within the marketplace to see what's already integrated. We completed our first initial stage of integration last summer. And wanted to give you an idea of some of the pieces and what they look like here. On the left-hand side here is actually what I would call a focus sheet. This is what we do each and every week. We have our priority projects for our team members. And then our team members now are actually taking the initiative to complete their own KPI reports. Instead of giving our team members what they accomplished, allow them to be accountable for what they've completed. We have a form that our team members will complete, and they can show off what they've done, and it's not just about the numbers, not just about how many text messages, how many calls they've done. We have lots of opportunities for additional information. What was a great conversation you had? What were your best things that you've done this week? What are you most proud of as a team member and what you've accomplished? For our integration of Cadence and Slate, one thing I'd always like to mention is the team within Mongoose was the one that really kind of got the ball rolling with this. And it's not finished as of yet, as we integrated imports and exports. So Slate can talk to Mongoose, Mongoose can talk to Slate at this point in time, but it does what it needs to do as far as importing names. It gives us the interactions, but we wanted to take it to the next level. And this is where we start looking at some opportunities going forward and ahead. First and foremost, we want to start intentionally using more group text messaging. Group texting gives us the opportunity for many of our team members to manage a text message at one point in time, especially during the travel season I already referred to. Coming up, maybe you have limited staff members in your offices. You're going to have the opportunity through group texting. Individuals within that office can manage that text message. The other thing that we're doing for our group accounts, we've assigned a group account specifically for our telecounselors or students, just to allow other students to actually text message a student on campus, for example. We're planning for other departments to use Cadence's texting on campus. Financial aid, housing, I already referred to. Our orientation leaders have been doing this. And we're looking to integrate web service-enabled queries. This would allow us to take our queries out of Slate, to integrate them directly into the Mongoose system and text message directly from those queries. So instead of actually copying out of an Excel spreadsheet, creating that segment that's there, it would already be there as a segment to integrate specifically within the Cadence system with an SFTP. We have some wish list items that we constantly look towards Cadence to implement. One of them would be the ability to rank our top campaigns and messages automatically so we could see what the highest response rates were, maybe like a top 10. I know previously David Letterman would do his top 10 that was there, and maybe now could we do a top 10 for campaigns that we're looking at. We would like more reporting options. Specifically, what's the counselor response time to messages as a manager, and also the ability to send lists of unopened messages to this counselor so that they know what needs to be completed. The ability to actually pull reports based on campaign segments as well, so we can track the most interested students based on who replied versus who did not reply. Some other opportunities. We created a Cadence task force. And I wanted to finish here and talking a little bit about identifying super users within your offices. We pulled together our top 3 texting counselors and created a task force. We worked together from early May to the middle of July. We created a full template text list for our counselors to use, most successful, most important messages. We created a full Cadence communication calendar that goes from May of 2018 until August of 2019. Every message we're planning to use throughout the year, and also creating a full automation plan for this, meaning having the opportunity to have this as part of a calendar reminder system within our Outlook inboxes from Slate as well as for Cadence as well. I know this is going to be available within Slate coming up. We're looking to continue to text message parents and do so in a more effective way. Dave from Mongoose had mentioned that this morning. We started requiring parent phone numbers when they apply, when a student applies to Florida Southern College, starting that process. And we are really rethinking our high school visit process, specifically promoting visits via text message. We're sending out a text message to students at the high school that we're visiting 7 days out and a day before to remind them of our visit. To give you a visual of what our communications plan looks like here, as I said, we're already looking all the way out until August of 2019, know what messages we're going to be sending on those dates, as well as the groups of students that we're specifically communicating to and what those messages look like in that communication plan. It took some time for our team members to put this together. However, if you empower and enable your team members, they're going to rise to the task. Because at the end of the day, the only ability we ever need is availability. I love this quote, and I'll actually finish with one additional quote here. And the quote that I wrote down today is, it says, "Great coaches have vision to see, the faith to believe, the courage to do, and great team players." The great Marv Levy said that. Where would you rather be than right here, right now? You have incredible team members to work with, all the tools in front of you. How, as leaders, can you implement those tools and use the resources that you have around you and the talent that you have to create these plans for communication and better effectively communicate and build relationships with students? So what are your strategies? What have you identified as your strategic engagement plan, your best practices? What pivots have you had to make? What are your stories to tell? How are you circling the wagons on your college campuses? Thank you so much.